of negotiation. He had that moment, and that's why, if you remember, we had that discussion in this House on Tuesday about that perilous moment which we all discussed. He had that opportunity. I'm afraid he's missed it. He's chosen the path of overwhelming violence and destruction. And I'm afraid that puts us on a very, very different course. And we have to accept that reality.
David.
Everybody will wholeheartedly support the Prime Minister's sanctions, hopefully against all 140 Russian oligarchs that support Putin and against all the major banks. The Prime Minister also described the Russian state as a pariah state. And he's right, because they have broken international criminal law on a major scale. Can we actually implement our view of the pariah state by ensuring that everybody involved in that decision, if they leave Russia to go abroad, face international criminal sanctions wherever they go?
I thank my right honourable friend, and that is exactly what we can now do, thanks to the measures that this House has passed.
Neil Hamley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning we woke to the worst possible news, and I make no apology in hoping for a diplomatic solution. However, my party and I condemn the escalating Russian aggression. This is a fluid and developing situation, but we are now in uncharted territory. I can update the House that whilst there have been calls in this place for Alexander to cease broadcasting on Russia Today, negotiations have obviously been happening in the background, and I can confirm that he has suspended broadcasting on Russia Today. But we must prepare for the worst. And I would ask the Prime Minister, what strategy is he bringing forward to increase the capacity of North Sea oil and gas so that we can support ourselves and EU member states and protect our people from a further increase in the cost of living?
Mr. Speaker, I must say I disagree profoundly with what he has had to say about negotiating now. I don't think that option is open to us. We must do our best to support and protect the people of Ukraine, and working with our international friends and allies to constrict what Vladimir Putin can do. And on his point about Russia Today, Mr. Speaker, I simply observe that the former leader of the Scottish Nationalist Party is his leader. Sorry, I'm so sorry. His leader. I understand the pleas he entered in defence and mitigation. They don't seem to cut much ice with me.
Sir Graham Brady.
I wasn't standing.
Steve Crabb is the name.
Mr. Speaker, I strongly welcome the further set of sanctions announced by the Prime Minister this evening, and we look forward to further steps being taken in the days ahead and not being held back by perhaps some of the slower moving members of the alliance in Europe. But does the Prime Minister agree with me that if sanctions are really to bite on Putin and his gangster government, then inevitably it will mean cost and inconvenience to UK economic interests, but that cost and inconvenience will be of as nothing compared to what people of Ukraine are going through, and we stand with them this evening.
Yes, I'm afraid my honourable friend is right. It will mean cost, it will mean inconvenience, it will mean difficulty for us in the UK. But that will be a price worth paying, Mr. Speaker, for defeating the objectives of Vladimir Putin and showing that aggression does not pay.
Dame Diana Johnson.
Could I just follow up on the question from the Honourable Member for the Isle of Wight about the Combating Kleptocracy cell in the National Crime Agency, and just seek from the Prime Minister a view whether additional powers will be required for the National Crime Agency and additional resources for them to do their work.
I thank her very much. They will, of course, they have plenty of existing statute, but the additional powers that they will have, amongst other things, will be the ability to peel back the facade.
Putin finally lost his mind, and now we should push back to absolutely mad like Kremlin's leader. So I can't tell you that we expected it. So we were worried about it, and we were concerned about it, and we were prepared, and we have been preparing for this scenario. But of course, this full-scale invasion was a shock for majority of Ukrainians.
And you're seeing, like everyone is seeing, the advance of Russian forces from 3 directions. What is your greatest worry now when you come to the response of Ukrainian forces?
Look, it's a reality, you know, and we have a war against democracy. It's not against only Ukraine. Ukraine was invaded now because of our democratic choice. So it's only a start of a bigger, I believe, global war, actually, because Russia is an aggressor not only against Ukraine, and Ukraine is only the main battleground now. So I think that I'm worried that Western leaders are still living in a world in which it's enough to react by only economic sanctions. This is a huge mistake, I believe, because economic sanctions is too little too late. So to stop Putin only using force, only showing him that he can get a very strong pushback from civilized Western world, because the Russians recognize all the power. So I don't expect that economic sanctions will stop Putin. Any economic sanctions will stop Putin, and this is my this understanding of the situation by Western leaders that economic sanctions is adequate and enough and like normal reaction on this full-scale military aggression. This is what I'm worried about, I believe, most, because it's obvious from Ukrainians' perspective, from our nation, from our people, it's absolutely obvious that this like mad strong man stopped only by showing him power, only by showing him like unity. This is the only way how to stop this war, I believe.
Alexei Honchadok, thank you very much for joining us, emphasizing that there needs to be more than just economic sanctions. Of course, we've seen
I think the Ukrainian soldiers will surrender, she says, and they should. It's terrible to be at war with Ukraine. This is not a conflict the Russian public wants. This is the Kremlin's war. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News.
More defensive weapons.
Ukraine is a country that for decades has enjoyed freedom and democracy and the right to choose its own destiny. We and the world cannot allow that freedom just to be snuffed out. We cannot and will not just look away. Our mission is clear. Diplomatically, politically, economically, and eventually militarily, this hideous and barbaric venture of Vladimir Putin must end in failure.
In the early hours, the United Nations Security Council met in emergency session to discuss the actions of one of its own.
The supply of grain from Ukraine, which is responsible for 1/8 of world supplies. But the economy is also a weapon here. The impact already being felt on the Russian currency, down to a record low against the dollar, with the Russians having to prop up the ruble using some of its war chest of over $600 billion in currency and gold reserves. The Russian stock market crashed this morning, losing up to 40% of its value, as its main banks and energy giant Gazprom at one point halved in value. But Russian gas supplies, including through Ukraine, continued uninterrupted. Quite literally, dollars, euros and pounds are flowing into the Kremlin and companies it controls selling its main exports as the Western world.
8 years. And for this we will strive for the demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine.